friends, insane persons, and welcome to another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. My name is Kyle, and Wednesday Whimsy is a short show that I do every Wednesday evening where I talk about a board game, a top 10 list, or some other board game related topic, whatever happens to be on my mind at the time. Well, I've been playing a lot of games lately. I've been getting a lot of new games, and I've really just had very little time to sort of sit and process them. I'm constantly playing something, and that's a great thing. It's a good problem to have. But I really, there's a game I've been wanting to talk about for a little while, and I just haven't gotten around to it. And that game is one that was announced a really long time ago. And then, as usual, it took a little while to come out, but that's kind of unusual from this publisher. The game is Vantage by Stonemaier Games. So Stonemaier, it makes lots of games. Many of them are really good. Some of them are among my favorites. And whenever they put something out, it's usually a big event. But they have a really good track record of only really talking about their games a month or two before they come out. Not so with Vantage. With Vantage, they sold some coins last year, and I said, here's some coins for Vantage, which kind of a weird choice, honestly. But that was sort of their soft launch, I guess, to kind of tease the game. And it took forever to come because now I knew what it was coming and I was waiting for it. They've advertised it as really an open-world sandbox exploration type game, cooperative, and I've played it a few times now, and I've got some thoughts. So let's get into it. I'll tell you a little bit about the game and what I think. So what is it about? And I don't know what's going on with the text today. It's much larger and in a different color than normal, but I'm having some technical difficulties, so we're just going to roll with it. So in Vantage, like I mentioned, this is a game that is very much an open world game. So what's it about? You've crash landed on a planet and you're exploring. That's really what it is. There's not much more theme or story or backdrop to it than that. But in some cases, that's enough. So yeah, you're just exploring. You're trying to experience this planet. How does it work? Well, the main way that it works is these cards, which are conveniently called Vantage cards. So each card, and this is very zoomed in. Let's just try it like this. Each card is going to have a number and a little bit of text. Here it says, steam rises from vents in the valley below, adding an air of mystique to the wreckage from your ship that crashed here. And on your turn, you are going to pick an action. And the actions you can pick, there's always going to be 6 on the cards. So in this case, squeeze, search, list, repair, salvage, and cleave. And they're in blue, purple, orange, green, yellow, and red. So you can pick one of those actions. You can only pick one action on a card ever during the game unless the card says, unless your adventure says otherwise. Or you can pick some sort of an action from one of the cards in your tableau. You start with a character, but you're going to get other cards that are going to kind of go around, and you're going to place them in the 8 spaces around your sort of central card. You pick your action, and then you're going to open a storybook. So let's say I chose the red cleave action. Well, I'm going to open the red storybook. I'm going to go, in this case, to 713, and I'm going to read what it says. It's going to say, I don't know, it'll say, raise your pipe wrench, or whatever this thing is, and strike the rock. And then it'll have a little parentheses and a number, and it might say 6. And so 6 is a difficult one. That means I'm going to have to roll 6 dice. So I would roll the dice, and ultimately you want to roll as few dice as possible. So here, if I rolled these dice, since it's a red test, you'll see this character here, his cards that he's got, he is able to sort of store some of the dice, right? He can put one from a red test here, one from a red test here. He's already stored one. When you store a die, that means its negative effect won't affect you. So you'd roll these dice. You can also, before you roll them, spend skill tokens, and those are one-time use, but they're going to reduce the number of dice you have to roll. There may be other ways you can also mess with that, depending on what you've collected and what you've done. Based upon what you roll, it's either going to be a blank or a setback, which neither of those is too terrible, or it's going to be either a heart, an hourglass, or a star, and those are going to affect your time, health, and morale, I think, and so you're going to push down whatever you rolled. You always succeed at the tests, which is interesting, right? but it's going to cost you something. And so it costs you what it costs you. Here's some storybooks. And once you get to 0, that technically ends the game, although the game does offer you, if you're playing on easy mode, a chance to respawn. And I honestly think you probably always should, because by that time you've invested a little bit of time and you want to see where the story goes. But if you respawn, you're going to roll all the dice and regain the stats based upon what you rolled. If ever you need to roll dice and there aren't any left, that's how you clear off your cards. You're going to clear off all the dice, also from the exhausted pool, roll them all again, and you're ready to go. So you're going to keep doing this. You do 1 action per turn, sometimes more. Sometimes, it'll say you strike that rock and the world opens, continue. And you could choose something else. Most of the time it won't, though. And you're just going to follow the story until you either lose, or if you're able to complete your personal goal and a destiny, that's an epic victory, or if it's just your personal goal or just a destiny, that's a victory. And you win or lose as a group. It's cooperative. You might meet up, but ultimately each player is on a different part of the planet. So if you don't sync up, that's also a possibility. More likely than not, that's going to happen, is that you won't sync up, but that's kind of how the game goes. So let's talk about what I think about it. So what makes the game special? Well, first of all, one thing I really enjoy about this game is how simple the rules are. I just explained all of them. It's a game I can teach as I play, more so than almost any other game that I own. This is a game I could set up and say, look, just pick something. We'll figure out the rules as they come up. There's not much there. It's very easy. It's just a couple pages, and most of the pages are like an example turn. It's a super easy game to teach to people and to learn. I also really enjoy this open world nature. It is very open. In fact, we're going to talk about that again in a moment, but you don't have much direction. You have a goal, but you might not have any idea how to complete the goal. And I've played through sessions where the thing it was talking about never came up. But I found something else to do, and I had an adventure, and I had a good time. So it's just this very open exploration. You play these choose your own adventure games, and you're kind of on rails, right? You've got a character with some sort of things he's trying to do, and so you don't really have much freedom. But in this game, you can do any of those things, and you're going to succeed. That's another really special thing. I love that the designer here chose to say, look, you always succeed at your tests. There's no roll and see if it fails, get a minor success, major success. Sometimes in games like that, you're kind of like, maybe I'll roll this one up. Maybe this was a 4, because you want to succeed. Well, here you're guaranteed to. It's just going to cost you something, and because of that, it feels good, right? When you cleave that rock, you got it. You got this. Now, whether it was a good idea or not will then manifest itself. There's not really combat so far. I mean, sometimes you can find things to attack, but there's not like, a weird combat mechanism or anything like that. I love that you just always succeed, and it's easy to explore. Games so far for me have not been very long, but I've played it mostly solo. And as you add more people, obviously the game's going to get longer. The publisher says it should take 2 to 3 hours for a session. I have found every session has been much shorter, and that is because you either reach a success or a failure condition much faster than that. Obviously, if you had 6 people, that's going to take longer because more people are going to be having their adventures, but you'll see more of the planet that way. I also really like that this is not a campaign. I set up the game, I play through it, I put it away. The game says the only thing that persists between plays is knowledge. So what do I know? Well, I know it was a bad idea to cleave that rock, or, whatever that was, right? I don't know. I've never seen that card in the game. I've never had that adventure. I'm literally making that up. But, you'll sort of learn where things are. You'll learn what things are good, what things are bad. And that you take with you. Now, the next time you set up, you're likely not going to play the same scenario. There's 20 or so different starting points. And so, you might end up in the same place, but you're not going to have the same adventure because you're going to be doing different things with different goals, and the likelihood you're going to remember what each entry says is really impossible. There's 6, 7, 8 different storybooks if you count the Book of Secrets or whatever. There's also a little package of spoiler cards or something like that. A do not open package that I've not opened yet. I don't know what's in there. I've not come across it yet in the game. Um, so it's really, it's kind of a wild ride here. So where are the buts? Well, there's a couple. First of all, I said one of the positives is that it's not a campaign. One of the negatives is that it's not a campaign as well. I enjoy being able to play a one-off scenario and have an adventure. But what if I didn't finish it? I kind of want to, go back. And I guess I could put my thumb on the scale of the starting setup next time and make sure I end up in the same place and follow a similar path and make different choices. But, it would be nice if your character had a little bit of a story. And here there's literally none. You just have a name and a role and a color. And that's a color that they might do better or worse at, do better at. They might have some advantages with certain colors. So I wish that there were some way to save things and get better. But I on the other hand, I like that it's not a campaign. I like that I'm not getting married to this. I'm sitting down having a story with some friends for a little while, and then I put it away. And the next time I come back, I start anew. So, that's a soft butt, I guess. A bigger butt is, again, I said I liked the open world nature. I kind of wish there were a little bit more direction. I mean, because I just, you get this goal and you have no idea how to complete it. It's not just that you don't know what to do, in part A or B. It's that there's no direction. There's nowhere where it says, you got to do A, B, and C. Now, maybe you've seen something from a prior game, and maybe if you play the game 50 times, you might start having a better sense. But that's, I'm not going to be a beginner-friendly experience. The game itself beginner-friendly. But, I wish there were a little bit more hand-holding. Not much, but just a little kind of, hey, Section J5 would be a great place to go to. Something like that just to get you started. Not that big a deal, though. The other thing that I have, though, and this is, I guess, a real concern. It doesn't make me hate the game, but the tests feel kind of random. So there is lots of randomness, right, because you're rolling dice. But, I looked at that card like I had, and I said Cleve was a 6. But I had no way of knowing that. It wasn't like, Cleve was put with a star, danger. It was, I'm guessing based upon what the card looks like and what the words look like in that description. I have no way of knowing if something's a 1 test or a 5 test or a 12 test. I guess there's only 10 dice. It's 2 dice plus 8, or 2 dice per player plus 8. So there won't be anything more than 10 in a solo game, and probably not even in a bigger game, because you wouldn't know. It wouldn't work. And anyway, I'm spinning a little bit. But I just wish that there were some way of knowing, hey, you probably shouldn't do this. And I will admit, there's been a time or two where I've opened that, blue storybook and I've seen a 6 and I've said, maybe I'll make a different decision. I haven't read it, but I'm like, and because you don't start with anything, right? You just start on the planet. You don't have a chance or a definitive way to build yourself up, which means, you might find yourself facing some horrible peril completely unprepared. And I wish that there were a solution for that. I wish there were just a tiny bit of, a couple starting items, something like that. And those are my buts. Also, the mechanisms of the game. And I'm not talking about the game mechanism. I'm talking about finding cards in a huge pile. Yep, they're all numbered. But it kind of gets tedious to okay, go to 1523. And then you got to sort. And it gets a little old. It's kind of like Seventh Continent, but much lower overhead than that game. So anyway, those are some buts. And it sounds like I had a few, but they're not, other than wanting a little bit more direction, that's kind of what it all boiled down to. Where do I come out at this? And I want to stop before I give my final rating and say, where I think about this in terms of some other games that are like it. This is like a lot of games. It is like Destinies. It is like Seventh Continent and Seventh Citadel. It's like Sleeping Gods. It's like all of those sort of story adventure games. But I think I like it. I definitely like it better than Seventh Continent and Seventh Citadel, because this is one where I don't feel like I like the experience more than those kind of driven stories. Seventh Continent especially was really kind of beastly at times, and it had so little direction, and then so many tests, and it could take so long, and then setting it up and taking it down really took forever. This one, it's easy. I've got one card at a time, and I can put it right back when I'm done. I've got a few sort of item cards and destinies and things, so there will be some of that, but like I mentioned, that's a negative. But it's not nearly as bad as Seventh Continent. But I don't know. I also might like it a little bit better than Sleeping Gods. I like the story in Sleeping Gods, and I like the combat mechanisms in Sleeping Gods, and there is no combat mechanism, at least what I've seen in this game, in Vantage. But both of those, I mean, that combat mechanism requires so many rules, and it requires somebody to kind of run it and think, okay, remember, you got to do this, you got to do this, remember to flip this guy, you've got this ability. With none of that, it makes it super easy. And I think this is the kind of game that I just want to open and play. I mean, this isn't one that will be the star of every game night, but it is one where on a Saturday morning I wake up early, no one else is up in the house. Like I did this weekend, just set it up and I'll play it and I'll have an adventure. And by the time everybody wakes up, I will have put my adventure away. And I think that's remarkable. So I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. It's a really good game. I will say this is one to try before you buy, because it's heavy, it's expensive. It's a lot of cards, and if you don't like this kind of game, this sort of open world story, you're just not going to like this. This just isn't for you. But if you do like it, or you have someone in your life who you think enjoys that sort of choose your own adventure, exploration, open world experience, this might be worth thinking about. For me, it's pretty good. In fact, once I finish this, I'm probably going to go upstairs and play it again, because I want to sort of come back there, and I wish I could go back to where I was yesterday, but I won't be able to. I'll go somewhere new. I'll have a different experience. And I mean, there's hundreds of hours of play in this game. You won't see everything the first 20 times, for sure. So you've got something that you can play for a while and learn about this world and really kind of do what your characters are and explore it. For me, this is one I'd recommend. Again, I suggest you try it first, but I really enjoy it. So that's what I have to say about Vantage, and that's going to bring us to the end of another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Until I'm going to end it here, I guess. There I am, bigger. I'm going to end it here. I'm going to wish you safe travels, courage when you need it, and I hope to see you again next time on another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Bye-bye.